This is actually a topic I've thought a lot about, but have been until recently perfectly happy to keep to myself. For those of you who don't know that much about me, I can be a pretty vindictive person. For those of you in the same boat, you know how good it feels to give in to the temptation to be a vindictive asshole. There's just nothing quite like that rush. Anyway, as I've said, up until recently, I was perfectly happy to just hold on to my judgmental belief pertaining to spoilers and not voice it because, I don't know, live and let live and all that. And then I received a lovely comment on a video I had published over 2 years ago. The video in question is actually simultaneously my most well-performing and most hated, which says a lot about the YouTube algorithm and rage bait, though none of that is interesting or anything anyone who's been around the internet for a bit doesn't already know. And to be clear, my video wasn't rage bait, it was genuine criticism. But the statistics would suggest that I should just exclusively make videos I know for a fact will make people angry, which I'm not going to do because, vindictive asshole though I may be, I'm also quite clearly a barrel of chuckles. Back to the comment though, the main point of it was that I had casually spoiled, quote, the end of the whole Final Fantasy trilogy. That's a lot of power to give me, considering the part in question hadn't even been released yet at the time I published my video. Also, since when is part 2 the end of the trilogy? Because of the nasty language directed at me, as well as just the general tone, I responded, admittedly, more than a little pedantically. Yes, I did casually drop a major plot point from the original Final Fantasy VII, but that game is almost 30 years old at this point, and I did issue a spoiler warning. To get even more pedantic though, that's not the end of the original, and I assume it won't be the end of the remake project as well, though again, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't even finish Rebirth. No spoilers, please! Suffice it to say, clairvoyance is not, though this commenter might think otherwise, a power that I currently possess, even for events that have since happened. More to this video's point though, I'm not sure it's reasonable for me to be on the hook for discussing a plot point from the original, no matter how major, and speculating about its potential handling in a remake. And not for nothing, an understanding of the original context inclusive of that very critical plot point should only enhance your understanding of what they're doing in the remake project and appreciation for it. Like, knowing about that crucial detail allows for a lot of subtext to be read in Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was actually the most interesting part in my opinion, precisely because the writers were uncharacteristically not heavy-handed about that point at all. Additionally, the knowledge of that plot point from the original, I assume, would only build up a palpable amount of anticipation around that parallel scene in the remake project. That aside though, if you're going into the experience of the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, or any remake for that matter, it should be apparent that you're not playing a remotely original work. Yes, remakes can and should be able to stand on their own, but the experience is only enhanced by an understanding of the original work the remake in question is based on. And here's the point where we get to the meat and potatoes of today's video. Though it was a lot of fun to be vindictive, the experience got me thinking about something that has been bugging me for quite some time, but again, not bad enough to compel me to voice until now. I am so tired of the sensitivity around spoilers. Yes, just as I did in my video, I think if you're going to have them, you should give people fair warning, but I have never related to the overwhelming touchiness around them. In fact, to be perfectly blunt, if your experience of something can be significantly impacted by hearing a spoiler, I think that's a skill issue. We can disagree about that and you can think I'm an asshole for saying it, but that's how I genuinely feel. Like, I don't know, show some mental fortitude. Yeah, I guess the big plot detail is really shiny and surprising or whatever, but I appreciate the ride up to it so much more because storytelling is more than just that big reveal, or it absolutely should be. Like, if that's all you got going for your experience, then that's pretty boring if you ask me. Please don't misunderstand. We should all try our best to not spoil things, or at the very least, issue spoiler warnings where appropriate, but it's just not the end of the world. Some people seem to think it is. Does it suck? Sure. Is there absolutely no salvaging an enjoyable experience after falling victim to the dreaded spoilers? Well, if you think so, then again, I don't think you really appreciate the art of storytelling in gaming all that much. Man, I'm really having trouble empathizing on this one, and again, the unbelievable amount of sensitivity around spoilers at this current cultural moment really doesn't make me even want to sympathize. And don't get me wrong, even I can see that there was something seriously fucked up with the little shits who went out of their way to spoil Harry Potter 6, for example, in very orchestrated and tangible ways. And maybe had I fallen prey to that, I might feel more sympathetic at the very least toward people who cry spoiler at seemingly every turn. But I truly do think we've gotten a little carried away with this somewhere along the way, especially in our current era defined by a glut of remakes, revamps, and reboots. If we're going to point fingers at people for talking about events that happened in the original iteration, now that's shitty.